You knew without question, baby, yeah. You knew I was gonna do a chapter review for the latest chapter of One Piece, 1187, cause it's a damn good day. It's a damn good day. It's a damn good week. Bro, this is how we start July. Yeah? Vindication. Oh, I can't tell you how it feels unless you go through yourself. Where you're like me, you've been doing this for over a decade plus, over 15 years, and you've had takes that are wrong, takes that are right. I've been standing 10 toes down, 20 with the fingers. I've been standing 10 toes down on X equals X, on Zoro and Sanji being equal. And whatever Oda is gonna give Zoro, Sanji will have his own equivalent of it, whether it be of the same path or not. Oda will find a way to always make these two cats equal. And Oda has now paved the road, like old school Loki Kang the Conqueror.
I paved the road.
He paved the road for Sanji to achieve Conqueror's haki. You can see the difference here between Zoro and Sanji, where Zoro has Conqueror's haki, but he's been using it uncontrollably, unbeknownst to him, and now it's about reining it in and utilizing it properly. Whereas Sanji has the traits for it, but he has to actually manifest it. He has to let it go. He has to release it, right? Because ironically enough, Sanji has been too hard on himself. There was, I forgot where, but there was a line back in the day where Sanji told Zoro, or he said about Zoro, that he's too hard on himself. I think it was Punk Hazard. And that line of Sanji saying that Zoro's too hard on himself, it was actually Sanji himself was too hard on himself. So it's a nice paradigm between what Oda does with Zoro and Sanji. Oda maintains what he's done for so long, and we're only following suit with that. It's a beautiful thing, and I love to see it. I definitely do. Obviously, Sanji's not gonna have it just yet, probably, like let's say next chapter, probably not, but we'll see glimpses of it. He'll have some sort of indication for that. So, again, I'm gonna save all my stuff later on the review, but I'm hella giddy right now because just yes! So much vindication, dude. All right, I go through a lot and I say a lot, but hey, listen, whether it's, if you're in this game, whatever you want to call this game, the online career game, whether you're right or wrong, you just gotta push through. It is what it is. You relish your dubs and then you move past your L's. That's how it's got to be. All right, so on that note, lads and ladies, boys and girls, if you did not check out your boy's stream reaction, which was a crazy stream for this One Piece chapter, you can check that out on my Cole Requiem YouTube channel, 1. And 2, there is a video for the chapter reaction edited on this channel as well. And 3 is that if you, of course, want to support your boy on Patreon, where we do these episode reactions to the episode of One Piece, which have been very, very good so far, with the new sound effects and Elbaf, so on and so forth, then they're on my Patreon first and foremost. And of course, they're uploaded, edited to my Cole Reaction YouTube channel. I have many channels. Across the board, okay? So make sure to follow your boy on all platforms, because we're doing a lot. Now, for the chapter, as per usual, we're going to break down the chapter review, and there's 3 main components here. Number 1 is the pace and chapter structure. Number 2 are the character elements of the chapter. And number 3, of course, are the story progression components for the chapter. And let's dive headfirst into number 1, the pace and chapter structure. For this chapter, there are a total of 6 parts. Number 1 is the aftermath of Luffy's punch on Imu, and then Loki and Luffy and Imu's reaction to that, and then Loki being punted out of the area. Number 2 is going to be in the area where Loki was punted to, was near the ice block, where Jinbei and company are trying to unthaw the ice, but they're unsuccessful until Loki arrives there, and then Ragnar hits the ice and then it starts to melt. Number 3 is going to be a return to the fight between Imu and Luffy. So now you have your 1v1 fight between Luffy and Imu. After that, number 4 is that we go to the Western Village in the Sea Cloud Port, where Zoro is facing off against Summers. Number 5 is going to be in the Western Village itself, not the port, the village itself, where you have Sanji engaging in combat with Killingham, and you have the giants trying to save their kids from the nightmare version of the rain god or goddess Zaza. And then you have number 6 at the very end of the chapter, the face-off between Luffy and Emu with a pretty unique title card. You have Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy versus King of the World, Saint Nerona Emu. So when it comes to structure and pace, it's pretty good. It's not the greatest. I would say that the best chapters One Piece, like the ones that are like 10 out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10s, these chapters tend to be around the 3 or lower mark for pacing, but 5 and 6 are pretty damn good nonetheless. When it comes to One Piece content, there is a lot of content that you get per panel, per page. And nowadays, you'll see a lot of text bubbles and a lot of content jam-packed, let's say per double page spread, whether it be a diagram, whether it be character dialogues, whether it be shots of the scenery, so on and so forth. So that's never really changed. And so there's so much content to really go through for a One Piece chapter. And a lot of times, whenever there's like certain fights or things happening, Oda will jump from page to page to page to page as if each page is its own individual part. But in this case here, it's actually way more organized, where we do have that focus on Luffy, Loki, Emu predominantly, and then secondary is the Sanji content going on with Killingham, because now we're finding out what Gabon told Sanji previously. So overall, I would say the pace is actually pretty damn good. And the category pacing itself for the chapter, it's probably an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's a very, very good pace chapter for One Piece. After the pace, we have, of course, the character elements for this chapter. And numero uno is, of course, Saint Nerona Emu, a candidate to be the final villain of the One Piece series. So we get to see another one of Emu's abilities, and it's another sword. Right now, we have 3 swords mentioned by Emu. We have Nemesis Blade, we have Garm, and then now we have Stigma. And there was a theory that someone had that I really liked during the chat, where someone mentioned that maybe the attacks, the sword-based attacks that Emu has, are based off of the swords of the 20 kings that surround the true throne. Now that is very intriguing. That may require a deeper video in the future, because I do like that idea a lot, where Emu may be able to utilize in some unique way variations of swords from past individuals, and maybe their abilities or their swords have unique properties to them that we're not aware of just yet, at least techniques that are based off of those 20 king swords. Well, 19, because obviously the Nefertari family didn't join the 20 kingdoms. That being said though, you have this new ability called Blade of Hatred Stigma. It seems to have a lead up to it, where after Emu takes the punch from Luffy, he begins to aura farm, makes the omen sign on his hands, and then he makes these 2 almost like homie-like black fire balls. I call them Mera and Pusu, kind of modeling what you see with Maki Oze from Fire Force, where you have his version of Mera and Pusu. And Mera and Pusu, they attach themselves to Luffy and Loki. Luffy's trying to remove one of the flaming homies, but he can't. And then the ones that are stuck on Loki, they kind of move towards the area where Loki took that Blade of Nemesis attack through the chest. They move to that area. And then you have the Blade of Hatred Stigma. It is the OK sign, and then from the OK sign, we see a bell. You would see the bell, it rings, and then it tracks exactly to where the Mera and Pusu were on Loki, and then Loki takes the attack right through the chest. Whenever the target is applied with the homie black flame little balls, it looks like they auto track the Blade Hatred Stigma to that location. So Emu himself is not aiming, but arguably the little fireballs are just dragging the attack towards them, so they automatically hit. I believe it was either Mega Buster or Dawnfather during my stream reaction to the chapter. They mentioned a Hunter x Hunter fight where you had very similar powers go on with the Ortho siblings versus Killua, where during the Chimera Ant arc, the Ortho siblings placed a tag on Killua, and then when the tag was put on Killua, his body became gamified like it was a dartboard. And then every time one of the siblings threw a sort of swordfish in the air, it would auto track to a spot on the dartboard and then hit Killua immediately. So it's actually a pretty damn good ability that Emu has to actually like have a target system ingrained into his ability. So Omen, again, is very versatile, and you're seeing part of that. And the power is no joke. Loki is sent punted miles to where he is now back in the area where he made the block over Shuri, over Gunko. So the attack power is very, very impressive. We do see how later on during that fight, Luffy removes his cape, which was sad to see because the fur was on point. Make no mistake. But he removes his fur jacket or his first cape, and then the little fireball that's on the cape goes with the cape. And then the Blade of Nemesis targets that. So that's the downside to it, where if the person can remove that piece of clothing that the fireball is on, then the fireball loses target system on the person themselves. But still, it's a very effective technique for sure, without question. So that's number 1 for character Emu. Real quick, number 2 for character is going to be Loki. Well, Loki slash Ragnar. And I'm going to combine Loki and Emu together real quick for character, because there was something that's very interesting about both their powers. Where early in the chapter, Luffy said about that black flame on his shoulder, ow, ow, it's hot. It's hot. I mean, well, it stinks. What is that black fire? So the fire was hot, but at the same time, it wasn't traditionally hot as you would think. It actually had like a more unique property to it, where it stung Luffy rather than, let's say, actually burning Luffy per se. And we see something similar here with Ragnar's ice, where only Ragnar's hammer can undo the ice. That's what Loki said. And that seems the case here, where not only Emu's fireball didn't break through it, but then also we see Nami's lightning, we have Jinbei huffing and puffing, we have Frankie, who probably did a Rackle Beam to it as well. No one could break the ice that was around Gunko or Shuri. Brook touched the ice, comedically so obviously, so does Frankie too, but and Nami gets mad at them because their hands, bone, metal, like hello, non-human, stop. Obviously stop. But they both refer to how the ice it's cold, but then is it really cold? They're not too sure. There seems to be where like they can't really tell if the ice is cold or not. Almost like their brains are tricking them to where they naturally feel like it's ice, therefore it should be cold. They don't actually touch it. It's like, wait, hold on, it's not really cold. So there's a similar principle going on here between Ragnar's ice and Emu's fire, where both of these properties are not the typical element. Emu's fire doesn't burn like regular fire, and Loki slash Ragnar's ice doesn't freeze like regular ice. There are supernatural properties to these abilities, hence why they're mythical Zoans. Ragnar as well as Emu, they are mythical Zoans in some respects. Recall the fight between Marco and Big Mom back in Wano Country. Marco is able to outdo Prometheus, who is a living ball of soul flame, fire incarnate, but his Phoenix fire was actually suppressing Prometheus. And Marco explained that Phoenix fire properties are actually superior in some ways to regular fire. They outdo regular fire. But Marco's flames don't burn. Marco's flames are flames of regeneration. It's a very similar concept here. You can argue, for example, someone like Kuzan would be as cold as possible, even maybe absolute zero. But Kuzan's ice abilities would be inferior to the ice powers of Ragnar. The same thing should apply for, let's say, Sabo's fire versus Emu's black fire, where Emu's black fire will probably be more superior than Sabo's fire because of the unique properties of the black fire component. So that is character number 2. Number 3 is going to be Sanji. So earlier in the arc, while Gabon was getting treated by Chopper down below, you had a statement to Gabon talking to Zoro about how Zoro has to control his Conqueror's Haki if he so desires for Monkey D. Luffy to be king of the pirates. And then Sanji commented real quick, hold on, Gramps, do I have Conqueror's Haki too? And Loki yelled over that line because Oda wanted to keep it hidden. Now we find out that Sanji, yes, he was told by Gabon that he did have the potential for Conqueror's Haki. However, for some reason with Sanji, he possesses a streak of, and I quote, masochistic instability. According to Gabon, Sanji has burdens on himself, on his soul, you could argue, right? That these things in some ways hold him back from being able to achieve Conqueror's Haki in the same vein as guys like Luffy and Zoro. Gabon also says that you must be a king too if you truly want to make Luffy king of the pirates. So Gabon is saying point blank period that you must also awaken as a Conqueror's Haki user. And it makes a degree of sense just considering how important the ability is. The ability itself has the power to undo immortality factor. The ability itself on the highest levels that we see with Joy Boy, the Haki that can transcend all things, allegedly, the Haki that is the ultimate Haki in the story, even brought Emu to his knees. When it comes to Haki potency overall, Conqueror's Haki is the Haki that has the greatest power among all the Hakis, ideally. But obviously, you have to have affinity for Hakis. And I think it's safe to say that because Zoro's affinity is not Conqueror's Haki, it's Armor Haki, and then for Sanji, it's Observation Haki, even though they'll be able to utilize very strong Conqueror's Haki in the future, ideally, it'll be Monkey D. Luffy they'll be able to utilize in the future, the ultimate, the Joy Boy levels of Haki and even beyond. It'll be Monkey D. Luffy. And before we move touchdown, we did see that there was a steel heart that was for some reason a part of their body, and that steel heart when Zoro was talking about cutting it down previously, Summer saw that he was very, very terrified. So the possibility of the steel hearts being destroyed is enough to maybe do damage to the immortals, like lasting damage. We don't know. We haven't seen it be played out in action just yet. Like, could a non-Conqueror's Haki user destroy the steel heart, and then from there the immortal being would die? But Killingham once again reiterates the importance of Conqueror's Haki being able to do damage to these immortal beings. So just how Armin Haki was utilized to do damage to Logias, actual damage to their true bodies, Conqueror's Haki is how you do damage to even immortal beings. Haki is the fix-all. That's why it's like again, transcend all things. All things, if Kaido's correct. All things. So now with Sanji, it's about really finding out what kind of king he wants to be, and also letting go of some of the instability he has. The whole King Out situation that we saw, and then following up with Wild Country, it's very evident that Sanji, when it comes to his emotional state, is very hard on himself. Likely how his family views him, that's one, but then two is that his body's mutation. When he started to mutate, what was he afraid of? He was deathly afraid of him losing his sanity, of him losing his mind and becoming like his brothers. Whereas brothers have no emotions and no feelings, Sanji was terrified of that. And that's why he forego the raid suit. Before he started the raid suit, what he said in his own mind, he literally said, Luffy, do you want the usual me, the man that can't even take a woman, or would you want a mindless monster who could destroy guys like these with ease? Once again, we seem to be following that track. I need to do a Sanji video, deep Sanji video. It looks like his insecurities about how he felt with him transforming because of the raid suit, they're still lingering in his mind, where he's probably still afraid to this day. Remember when Sanji took the attack from S-Shark, and then in the manga there was a little more malice on his face than normal, you could argue? He could be afraid of him actually losing his emotions like his brothers had. This is where Sora's play comes in, and Sora's sacrifice is what truly saves Sanji. You know what? Again, a video, because it goes deep, and I love it. Like you can see the road that Oda's trying to pave with Sanji awakening Conqueror's Haki. It won't be easy, probably, no, but it's gonna require a lot of deep thought from Sanji and an ability to accept himself for what he really is and not try and burden himself. Even though he's terrified of him mutating as time goes on, maybe. But at the same time, Luffy cannot be going back to Whole Cake Island. I can't be king of the pirates without you. It's oh, dude. It's so good. It's so freaking deep. Okay, but that is for character. Again, I'm gonna do a Sanji video in the future, diving more into that, because I really want to just take my time, break it down, really, you'll get my thoughts right on that one, write out a few things, and then really just hunker down that one, because that one I think is gonna be a very good video, and a deep look into Sanji's character, his psyche, because it's gonna matter a lot in the future. So now we are done with the character elements of the chapter, and now we go into the story progression components of the chapter. And ironically enough, some point out in my stream too, hey, notice how we have a cover story about Germa 66. Germa. And in the chapter, it's revealed that Sanji has what? Conqueror's Haki. So Oda chose that one on purpose for damn sure. The ugly duckling was the one that shined the brightest at the end of the damn day among the family. So for story, it's pretty simple though. Number one for story is that we do see a new moves from Emu, and Loki is now taking out the fight. And now we have the 1v1 fight between Luffy and Emu. But in the process, Loki is sent miles from where he was fighting all the way to the ice block that he made around Shuri. And then Ragnar hits it and does the ice around Shuri. So Loki, for a time, being out of commission. And to be fair, according to how things should work on paper, Loki was going to that fight already wounded because of what happened with Shamrock and Gunko. Now, I know folks say it doesn't matter anymore, but as far as we know, if Gert is correct, it will take him months to fully recover. So at the bare minimum, his stamina threshold and his endurance threshold are not what they should be going into this fight. If it was at full power off the rip, maybe he does take the Blade of Hatred stigma and he can still stand. Maybe. And then real quick, on a side note, before the Rain God Zaza section, after Zoro blocks the attack from Summers, there is a diagram that we get, a bird's eye view of the entire branch and what's going on, like where everything's located. This, I think, is a very good view because it kind of shows you the scope of what's going on here. Remember when Loki first pulled up to the Sun Realm? Loki was in the Western Village. And then Loki flew from Western Village all the way to the Warrior School. So he cut through the main branch and he's on the smaller branches, and he was annihilating all these nightmare creatures. Later on in the arc, he's in the Warrior School and he's watching Luffy get berated by Nami. Ragnar has to consult Luffy, all kind of stuff, okay? So you see that happen. And then Luffy detours to where we have the Emu-controlled Shuri, and she's annihilating Usopp and Brook, right? And that's what the block is. Because Loki is Sea King class, that means that Loki is several miles long in himself. Loki's around 3 to 4 miles long for his main body, and his wingspan's even bigger than that. Keep in mind that at no point in time in the chapters do we see Loki's body reaching both ends. So for example, we don't see Loki's body reach the Western Village and the school. No, because it's too great of a distance. We don't see his body reach the school to the ice block that's in the middle of the branch. We don't see that, no, because it's too big of a distance. This means that when we see Loki fight against Emu, who is fighting probably somewhere in like the center of where the small branches are, where he was destroying the nightmare creatures, when they're fighting over this area, this is miles, probably tens of miles apart from each other in terms of distance. Matter of fact, even when we see bird's eye views of certain attacks and explosions, like for example, in chapter 1181, when we see Emu block the Ragnar Zuchi and then you have a bird's eye view of that area, or later on in that same chapter, when Loki sends Emu flying with a attack, and then he follows with a Thorheim, and then you get to see the distance that he travels, or even in the next chapter, 1182, where in that chapter you get to see Loki try and do the Ragnar Quint Arrow versus the Eclipse that Emu does. And then you can see how the area is getting bombarded constantly. In the vast majority of those shots are like near the sword, near the school area, you do not see the main branch. You don't see it. What does that mean? Miles. The areas are massive in scale, like truly massive in scale. Which means that again, when Loki in this chapter is sent punted by Emu's blade of hatred, Stigma, Loki is literally flying like a Dragon Ball Z character. He's flying for miles and then lands on the block. That's how it is. Now, is Oda gonna be consistent? Then the story, you have Zoro versus Summers, that being set up. Zoro bigs up Sanji in a pretty cool way, but then Summers bigs up Killing. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about, bro? Like, come on. Right now we're looking very damn good, and then Summers strikes Zoro's all box the attack. Then after we get to see what's going on with the rain god Zaza, and then how the Giants are trying to save them constantly, but then they keep on losing them to Zaza. Colin gets captured again, so on and so forth. But then you have Sanji, who understands what he is, and he can't kick a woman, even if it's, let's say, a rain god monster, nightmare monster, so he attacks Killingham. There is a detail that I don't think folks realize what happened. I don't know if Oda did it intentionally or not. There was a detail that was maybe in chapter 1182 that was hard to tell about Killingham, but we get to see it as clear as day now. When Emu gave Killingham the Omen Ring in chapter 1180, we see the ring right above him. Obviously, he's cut up into pieces, but we see the ring right above him. And in chapter 1182, we still see the ring that's above him, like it's an actual ring. But in this chapter, it seems like the Omen Ring that Killingham had on his back has been absorbed into his Hagama scarf when he's in his Zoan form. And now his scarf is black instead of white. That I think is a very intriguing detail, honestly. The fact that his Hagama scarf for a mythical Zoan like him changed from white, like, well, let's say Luffy is, or let's say what Yamato is, to black because of the Omen Ring that Emu gave Killingham. Why did that happen? Why is his Hagama scarf black? With Summers, he has the Paramecia power, the Thorn power. So because of that, he has just the ring as it is. But the fact that the ring fused with his Hagama scarf, I think is a very interesting detail. Why is that the case? If mythical Zoans in some ways are related to mythical beings or gods, does that mean that the Kirin that Killingham is someone being corrupted? That's why it's changing color? It's kind of like, let's say, in video games where you have a very strong dragon, it dies, turns to, let's say, a necro dragon or a chaos dragon, and so it's stronger, but it's also mutated in some way. Does that mean like it's some sort of like corrupted divinity? It's interesting. I'm not too sure what's going on there. That one I think requires a lot more thought, honestly. The Omen Ring itself, like the rings, because you see with Zaza too, the rings themselves may also be of the same line as the scarves, but of a higher degree of divinity per se. Maybe, potentially. I'm not too sure exactly how you work that out. I'm thinking about it. That is for Killingham, and of course for Sanji, we get to see him fight against Killingham, and he understands the mission at hand. But also we get to find out that he has the Conqueror's Haki traits, and now it's gonna be about tapping into those traits to become a future king himself. The king of what, though? We're gonna find out in the future. And after that, we have the title card, the main event match: Emperor of the Sea, Monkey D. Luffy versus King of the World, Saint Nerona Emu. And this is gonna be, I think, a very good fight. I think it's gonna be way better than Loki versus Emu, because Loki came to that fight wounded, whereas Luffy's fresh and he's actually powered up. So this should be a very, very, very good fight. I think that people that say that's going to be easy fight for Emu, I think are kind of crazy. The fact that he couldn't put down Loki so easily, I think is indicative of we're going to see Monkey D versus Emu. Now, I will admit that I do have Emu over Luffy. I do. I still do. Emu is in my top 3. However, by no measure will it be easy for Emu. By no measure. That's what I think, at least. So that is it when it comes to the story progression components of the chapter. And the chaptering overall is a fantastic chapter. It's an amazing chapter. I'm going to give it a 9.5, honestly. I kind of want to, because I'll be biased here. I can't give it a 10 because I think the pacing needs to be better. But I'll probably say 9 or 9.5 out of 10 for this chapter of One Piece. Wow. Outstanding chapter, without a doubt. So let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoy your boys' video content, thumbs up, of course. Subscribe to the channel and click on that bell to join the notification squad. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye bye.